Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? Nice to have a little break from footy. Weekend off. I hope you're all relaxed, put your feet up, de-stressed. Just taking some time away from footy. It is the mid-season report time, report card. I'm not sure why I decided to do this. I guess usually this time of year I'd take a little break from content, but I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good about the Bombers, so I figured I'd give you guys something else to listen to look at. And yeah, so last week, if you saw in our social channels as well as on YouTube, I put out a link for a survey, mid-season report card. Basically, you rated Essendon season out of 10, the coach and every player who's played 3 senior games this season. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through that all with you. You'll see the survey ranking, you'll see my ranking, and you also see the most common answer. And yeah, I'll talk through them. So let's get stuck into that. Enough of me. So if you're watching on the YouTube now, you'll be able to see the graphics. So let's get stuck into it. So Essendon 2024, the survey result, if I can get it to work. There we go. 7.67 was the result from everyone there. For me, I gave us an 8. Most common answer was 8 with 45.8% of people. I guess for me, where I decided my decision was like, what is my season expectations? Where did I have us at the start of the year and where are we now? Now, I'm fairly certain I predicted us to finish 10th. Time of recording, we're sitting 4th now that Collingwood's on their game on the weekend, but obviously we have a game in hand over them. And that's why I gave us an 8, because, look, we've really exceeded my expectations. I'm really happy where things are going. Are there still some things that need to be improved? Absolutely. Obviously, our forward connection's been a bit off. We've been a bit wayward in front of goal, so there's plenty to work on there. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. And I think a lot of people are happy as well, obviously, with an average of 7.67. Can't complain with that. And then, yeah, most people who took the survey gave it an 8. We had just about over 350 people who filled out the form. So if you were one of those people, thank you for participating. On to Brad Scott, the next one. He's been given a 7.95 from the survey. I gave him an 8. And his most selected, it was also an 8, 41.7%. I think for me, the big one is just the culture change. He spent a lot of time speaking about professionalism, about how we have to really up our professional mindset amongst the playing group, driving the standards, as well as playing, pretty hard football. That's what we want to be known for. We want to be known for being a tough team to play against. And I think that's happening slowly. We're obviously still a long way off the finished product, but I think a lot of people are pretty happy with where it sits right now. I mean, are there things I don't like? Yes. Are there selection things or positions that people have played? Yeah, I don't quite agree with them all, but the results are there. We're in the top 4 for a reason. We've won a lot of games where people have said we're going to lose. We've been, I think we've been the favourites in many games this season, but yet we've still got 8 wins on the board and a draw as well. So you can't really complain too much with that one there, as my computer's just frozen for a moment. So let's just bear with me for 1 second, everybody, as I get this moving on to the next slide for you. There we go. Oh, Andrew McGrath. So Andy McGrath, number 1, he has a survey ranking of 7.74. I gave him a 7.5 for my ranking, and most selected response was an 8 with 44.9% of you giving him that rating. Look, I think he's played some really good footy, but also had some moments where I don't think he's had massive impact on games at times. So that was probably what held me from giving him an 8. There was definitely a game early on where he was best on ground, I think, against St Kilda. And then has played some pretty good games from the back line there. But yeah, I guess in sort of recent months, I wouldn't say he's lit the world on fire, but he's definitely been one of our better players. So 7.5 for me, obviously 7.74 from most of you. And then, of course, the 8 being the most selected result. So, look, got to be pretty happy with Andy. I think he's made a good foundation on this season. He's had he's had a good run, injury-free thus far, touch wood. And, good foundation for the back half of the season from him. And hopefully we can continue in that direction. Semi Draper number 2. Survey ranking 4.78. First one under 5. I've given him a 5 personally, and the most common selected answer was 6. So this is one of those ones that had quite a big spread of results. So most selected response was a 6, but it was 27.5%. So there was well over 20% of people who gave him a 4 or a 5, which has ended up with that result of 4.78. Now, for me, when he has played, I've been relatively happy with how he's gone. There was one or two games where he wasn't great, but I think he's had some pretty pivotal roles. I think our structure looks better when he's playing in the team. I'm also disappointed about the injuries. That's one of the reasons that I wasn't going to give him a 6 and I just gave him the 5. It'd be good to see how he is post this injury that he's had. He's had a bit of extra time out to get it back to where it needs to be by all reports. So hopefully we see the best of Sammy and not the worst of him in the back half of the season because, a fit and firing Sam Draper is vital to the success of this team. Number 3, Darcy Parish. There's a photo of him there from the practice game. Start of the season. Survey ranking 4.77. I've just given him the 4. And most selected result was a 5 with 24.3% of people giving him a 5. Why did I give him a 4? One is the injury disappointment. Obviously, that calf has just been a constant problem from this season. Whether or not you put that down to himself or the medicos or a combination of both, that's up to you. I think the reason why I give him a 4 is that I was so pumped for him at the start of the season. That Geelong practice match, I thought he was looking absolutely incredible. I was like, here we go. Darcy Parish going to have another big year, like his All-Australian year from a few years ago. And then when he had played, he just didn't quite seem himself. Yes, his role might have changed slightly with how their midfield looking at the moment. But I guess I've just been disappointed with the output and I've been very disappointed by his injuries because, I know what he can be at his best. I know what the best Darcy Parish looks like. We just haven't seen that this season. He's obviously going to be out for a long while from now still. Could he feature really late in the year? Maybe. And hopefully if he does play well. So, most selected 5 from you all and the survey ranking of 4.77 for DP3. Kyle Langford, number 4, survey ranking 7.6, 1 out of 10. I've given him an 8, and the most selected response was a 7, with 38% of you giving him a 7. Look, I really love Kyle's game so far this season. Yes, I know he's probably had a couple of down weeks more recently, but he really just kept on going from last season. We've had that often with Essendon in the last sort of 5-6 years where a player has a really good season and the next year they don't back it up. I think thus far he is backing it up. He's kicked, plenty of goals. He's looking like he's well in the hunt for, possibly an All-Australian selection if he, gets back on that score sheet regularly, puts himself back up into the, top sort of 4 or 5 for goals. I think, what is he now? He's 7th at the moment with 28 goals. So, if he can maybe take advantage of West Coast this weekend, a fairly game, get himself back into that top 5, he's definitely in the conversation to be there. So, look, let's watch this space for Kyle. I think he's one who, like most forwards, suffers from delivery. No, he's not someone who's going to take a huge pack mark. He needs it one-on-one. He needs it on the lead, and that's where he's most damaging. So, pretty happy with Kyle. Look, I know he's kicked a few more behinds of late, but, I still think he's played a really vital role and happy with what he's putting out. Number 5, young Elijah Tsatas, depending on how you want to say it. Survey ranking 3.43, pretty low, unfortunately, for Elijah. I've just given him the 3, and most selected response was a 3, 2.96%. Look, it's a tough one. He's such a young kid. There's obviously, they're putting a lot of work into the way he kicks the footy. And he's, I don't know, Jesse sort of spoke about on the podcast where he's almost overcorrecting a little bit. He's kind of it looks like he's in his head with the way he's trying to kick the ball rather than being instinctual, just going by instinct and just going, yep, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the shot. I'm going to take the pass. It seems like he's really thinking about it, which might mean that action isn't where it wants to be. Obviously playing a fair bit of the sub, not having an impact from there. It's a tough role to play, we'll be honest. And look, I don't think he's a player who should be playing there right now. I think he needs to be playing VFL if he's not starting in the ones. He's obviously a very young kid, long way to go, and we hope, it all works out for him. But, the pressure of being a top 5 pick and wearing the number 5 certainly makes him, one to look out for most Essendon supporters. So, poor results so far from Elijah, but, we want him. We want him back up the top. So hopefully he can get some good footy under his belt. Jye Caldwell, number 6. Survey ranking 8.43. Massive score there from Jye Caldwell. He's obviously impressing a lot of fans. I've given him a 9. I've absolutely loved what he's been doing this season. Most selected response was an 8, 36.5%. Look, I've loved what he's done this season. He's played some really, really big games in the midfield for us. He's been very consistent, I'd say. He's also drifted forward at times and impacted the score sheet, while not a crazy amount, but I think he's done some pretty good numbers there. What's he had for the season in terms of goals? Let's have a look. Just the 3. Okay, but he has had 9 goal assists, which I think is something that's really important there. So, look, I really love Jye. I love what he's doing. He's tough as nails. I think he's going to be a really good player for Essendon for a long, long time. So, well-deserved of the 8.43 from the survey, and I've given him a 9 because I'm a big fan of his, as those of you who listen and watch the channel regularly would know. Big fan of Jye. The skip, Zachy Merrett. Oh, look at him, that post, that photo there, holding up the cup. We can dream, fellas. We can dream, everyone. One day, that might be us. Survey ranking 9.73. Massive results. He's obviously leading by the front there, and we all know it. I've given him a 9.5. Look, he's not quite a perfect 10. I think he needs to be kicking more goals to be a perfect 10. Look, he's got 8 so far this season, but, if he can turn that 8 to maybe 20 for the season, and continues to play the way that he has, I think he's good enough to get that 10. I know he copped the tag in the Blues game, but he still was able to have a really big impact defensively. Obviously, game-high tackles and working his way back into the game rather than just letting the tagger destroy him. Most selected response was a 10, so 64.9% of respondents gave him a perfect 10. Look, it's a massive year from the skip. He's on his way to his 4th All-Australian, another Crichton medal, I'm sure. And who knows, hopefully a finals win in there as well for the Bombers faithful. Young Benny Hobbsy, survey ranking 5.31. I gave him a 5 in my ranking, and his most selected response was a 5 with 31% of the vote. Look, I've really liked some of the things that Hobbsy's done this season, but I've also think he's been in and out of games when he has played. He's also had that injury trouble as well, which is another reason why I'm a little bit disappointed. But look, I don't mind him in that half-forward role. I think he does pretty well there. And, if a 5's a pass mark, he's passed for me, I think. He's just obviously got plenty more upside to come. And I think that'll just come with playing more consistent footy. He just needs to be out there more. As my surveys jumped forward a page, but I wouldn't mind seeing him hit the scoreboard a little bit more. Just the 1 goal from Hobbsy so far this season. And look, expecting to see him coming up soon, whether it's this week against the Eagles or the week after that. But yeah, would like to see a few more goals from Hobbsy, considering he does play predominantly forward. Jade Gresham. Gresh, survey ranking of 6.53. I've given him a ranking of 6. Most selected response was a 7. 38% of you gave him a 7. Why did I give him a 6? Now, I think he's played some really good footy for us this season, but there has just been the odd game here or there where I feel like he's just kind of almost disappeared at times. I feel like he was definitely better early on in the season than he was more of late. I know he's had some pinch-hitting moments in the middle where he's won the footy pretty well. But look, 11 goals, 13 goal assists is pretty good. Maybe I am being harsh on him looking back at those numbers, giving him the 6. But look, 6.53 from most of you, and most selected response from a 7. Look, he's definitely doing well, and playing that role pretty good. So that's where that's where I've got old Gresh. But yeah, maybe I was a bit harsh. He's probably worthy a little bit more than a 6 from me. Next one, Will Setterfield. Survey ranking 4.85. I've given him a 4.5. And most selected response was a 5, 26.4%. Killed by injuries, I think, is the main one for him. Obviously, it's really disappointing that he's hardly featured this year. He's been injured a lot, and when he has played, hasn't looked his absolute best. I know the first 2 games he looked pretty strong, had some pretty good numbers. Obviously, his defensive work's really, really great, but just haven't seen enough of him, and that's the real disappointment for me. Just have not seen enough of Will Setterfield this season. Obviously, I picked up that knock in the Carlton game. I believe they've said that he should be coming back this week, but I guess time will tell whether or not that is in fact the case. But yeah, looks like a lot of people sort of had him around that 4 to 5 mark, and yeah, that's all. We've got a 4.85. Nick Cox, number 13, survey ranking of 6.07. I've given him a 5.5, and most selected response was a 6, 35.1%. Now, the reason I give him a 5.5 is, well, I had him as a 6 because I really liked what he's done going forward, being able to kick some goals, particularly in the last few matches. But I think at times his disposal still letting us down. He's been more willing to take the game on quickly, which has been good and has done some good things there, but still turns it over quite a bit for mine. I do like Nick Cox, as most of you know. I do want him to be, us to persist with him. I think long term, this guy's got a really bright future because he is just such a unique player, but still needs to tidy some things up for mine. So that's why I've given old Coxie a ranking of 5.5. Jordan Ridley, the Riddler, survey ranking 7.96. I've given him a 7.5. Most selected response was an 8. 30% of you gave him an 8. For those of you who filled out, why did I give him a 7.5? Well, look, he's been really good since he's come back in, but purely because he's barely played any footy, I think it's hard for me to give him more than an 8. I know he was best on against Richmond, and what a great game back that was, but, has certainly had a little bit harder in the past 2 weeks. I think was okay against Curnow. Like, Curnow definitely had him in that first half, but I don't think he was embarrassed by Curnow by any stretch. And let's be honest, Charlie is the best forward in the comp. So the Riddler's got such a good upside for this team. We're such a better team when he plays and when he's fit. But yeah, I think it's hard for me to give someone an 8 when they've only played, the handful of games so far this season. Jaden Laverty, Big Lav, survey ranking 6.67 from you all. I've given him a 7. Most selected response was a 7. 39.4% of you gave him a 7. Slow start to the season, but I think he's really taken the responsibility that he's had with, obviously, Ridley being out for a long period of time, also Zach Reid not getting an opportunity as well. And, he's done some pretty good jobs and some really good defensive work. And particularly in those close games, there were a few, goal-saving moments from Jaden Laverty, which if he didn't pull off what he did, we could have, well lost the game there. Yeah, he's had the odd, brain fart here or there, the odd bad turnover and, getting beaten by his opponent, which, is going to happen from time to time. But I think he's done some really good work. And, he was one who I really was questioning what his role was going to be this season, how much we'd see of him. But, with Zach Reid just not being able to get on the park, Lav's taking his opportunity and I think he's played some, pretty consistent footy for the last, couple of months. Archie Perkins, the percolator, survey ranking 6.62. I've given him a 6.5, and the most selected response was a 7, 37.4. Hard one, old Archie Perkins. He's played some pretty good footy this season, but I think he's also just dropped off a little bit at times. There's the odd game here or there where he's kind of gone missing. And, we look at the work that like a Caldwell and a Durham have done so far this season. And Perkins in round 1, we were like, oh my God, he's ready to go that next level. But it just hasn't seemed to happen regularly enough for me with Perk. He can kind of disappear at times from games. Like he's only kicked the 5 odd goals when he, does often play in a sort of high half forward mid role. His clearance numbers, like they're okay, but they're not anything crazy. Like, he really sort of set the tone going, oh, this is what I can do in round 1 if I'm at my best, but just haven't seen enough of that from him. But look, he's still been good. 6.5. Obviously, still a good result for me. And then, the average of 6.62 from you all. So, plenty of upside from Perk, but still plenty of work to be done for him. Big Toddy Goldstein. Survey ranking, 6.93. I've given him a 6.5. Most selected response was a 7, 41.3. Why didn't I give him a 7? I guess he's played some really good footy. Don't get me wrong. We've been so thankful to have him, particularly in Sam Draper's absence. But there's just been games where, unfortunately, one of the most dominant players on the ground was his opposition. And that really dictated the way the game went, whether it was the Carlton game, whether it was the Richmond game or the North Melbourne game. Just him getting soundly beaten by another opposition ruckman at times really cost us. Not to say that he didn't do good things as well, and he does do good things as well, but I think just because he is such an old player of the game these days, that he needs a chop out in the ruck. He needs Draper to, give him less minutes so that when he's more rested, he can play, better. But look, I'm still really happy that we've had Goldie this year because, if we just had, say, Brian and Draper, I think things would probably look a little bit differently in the midfield. But I'm obviously really happy with the work Goldie's done. But I still think just the damage that those opposition rucks have done to us has kept me from giving him a 7. But most of you disagree, and you gave him you gave him a 7. 41.3% of you did. That's why we've got a 6.93 for his survey ranking. Nicky Hind, sweet Nicky Hind. But. Survey ranking, 7.26. I've given him a 7. Oops. And most selected response, I'll just quickly go back to his slide, is a 7. 42.3% of you gave him a 7. I agree. I think a 7. He started slow. He didn't look particularly good in those early couple of games, but after spending a bit of time out, getting his opportunity through injuries, playing in that wing role and even high half forward role at times, I think he's been awesome. I think he's played some of his best footy in his career in the past month or so. I'm wrapped for him. I'm wrapped for the work that he's doing. He provides a bit of burst speed that we don't quite have all over the park, and he's been really valuable when he's done that. And it's exciting now knowing that when other guys are going to come back into the team, that he will probably keep his place. Whether or not he becomes the sub or something else, I don't entirely know. Hopefully he can keep up that form, though, because sometimes players play well and then the guy who usually plays in that role comes back into the team and then you find yourself not playing as good as you were before. So hopefully sweet Nicky Hind can keep it up. But, stoked with the performance that he's had, hence why I gave him a 7. And he ended up having higher than 7, 7.26 as the survey ranking. Peter Wright, 7-seater Peter. Been a tough year for old Pete. Survey ranking of 4.63. I gave him a 4.5. Most selected response was a 5, 29%. Look, he's done some okay things, Pete. Just the 13 goals, though, I can see why is a reason a lot of people have been disappointed. He's been pretty quiet in the past few weeks as well, or at least he was quiet in the Carlton game and pretty disappointing there. Unfortunately, though, that suspension's really cost him for the season and why he's obviously missed, quite a few games. You do wonder how that's weighed on him mentally. Does that mean that he's not maybe going as hard at packs as he once was? Not to even say that he was someone who crash packs that hard to begin with, but it's definitely something that would be in the back of his mind because, he knows that he got rubbed out for hitting a contest a little bit late and bracing for contact. Unfortunately, that's just that's the tale for old Pete. When he does get the ball, he's usually a pretty good kick, takes his opportunities. But just the averaging the 1.4 goals a game, and getting soundly beaten in a few games. And I know that Carlton game would be ringing in recent memory for most of you who did this survey. And unfortunately, that's why he's got the 4.63. And I've given him the 4.5. So sorry, Pete. That's what I've given you. Dyson Heppell, the old former skipper, survey ranking 7.59. I've given him a 7. Most common response was a 7, with 35.9% of you giving him that. I think for me, it's like, what was my expectation of Dyson this season? I didn't have high expectations. I was hoping that he was going to be reliable. I hoped he was going to be able to, be okay when he played. One I've been most impressed with is in his longevity this season. That he hasn't been injured lots. He hasn't needed to be managed lots. He's looked fit. He's playing really good footy. Is he slow? Yes. Can he be beaten? When he's out of position, of course. But generally, he's very good in the air. He's been making some pretty good decisions with the ball. And he's just a leader for us down that defence where, it's a relatively new group, I guess, with a few sort of new faces down there, mainly Ben McKay, and I guess when Zach Reid, was meant to be playing more so. But yeah, look, I've been really stoked with the way that he's been playing, and 7.59% from you all shows that you agree. And yeah, Dyson looks like he might be going on for one more year the way that he's playing right now. Sammy Durham survey ranking 9.23. What a year this man's having. I've given him the 9. Most selected response was a 9, 49.3%. Just incredible growth from this guy. Just such incredible growth from this, athletic winger to, a real contested beast. He's the midfielder that we've been crying out for so long. He's far from the finished package. There's so much more this guy can go. He can take a big mark in the air where none of our other midfielders can really do that. He's just got X factor about him. He's taken some big scalps this season. Obviously, Marcus Bontempelli being the biggest one of them. And yeah, like you think about the one game he didn't play in Port Adelaide and how just destroyed we were in that game in the midfield and just didn't have any plan B, but he just provides us with so much more than some of the other guys do in terms of just his God. I'm lost for words when I speak about Sam Durham. That's how good I think he is and how good I think he's going to be for the remainder of his career. So fingers crossed we keep him on the park and keep him fit because, yeah, he's just such an X factor for us. Harrison Jones, survey ranking 6.59. I've given him a 6, and the most selected response was a 7, 38.8% of you. Why did I give him a 6? Now, I've been really happy with his defensive work. I think that's the thing that's most impressed me. He run, he chases, he tackles. What I've been disappointed by is just not getting a great deal of the footy. Now, I know when you're playing key position role, it can be hard to find a lot of the ball, but, I think he's placing his best footy when he's high up the ground, taking, really valuable marks and turning around, getting inside 50. 11 goals this season. Look, it's an okay return, but, he's just averaging the 1 goal a game. Like, I really think if a T4 is going to be good, you want to be getting that a little bit higher up and making a bit more of an impact in that space. Missed some pretty gettable goals as well. His kicking at goal hasn't been his best, I've found. And yeah, he's just a little bit sort of frustrating for me at times, but I'm very happy with a lot of the work that he's doing. So I'm still happy to give him a 6. What's his goal accuracy? Let's have a look. Set shot goal accuracy from Harrison Jones, 52%. Yeah. So could be better. Just like a few players in our team definitely could be improved. So that's why I gave him the 6. Jakey Stringer, El Paco, the package, survey ranking 6.88. I've given him a 7, and most selected response was a 7. Look, second most goals for the team at the moment. He's, looking like the old contract year stringer. Is he absolutely tearing a game apart like he once did last time he was up for a contract? Not quite, but he looks fit. He's playing well. And what I'm hoping is that this is going to lead into a big back half of the season because he's just one of those players that if this Essendon team is going to do anything this season, play finals, win finals, a fit and firing Jake Stringer just has to be involved in that. He can go into the midfield at times we've seen and has provided a bigger body and helped us win clearances, but then also just, doing the right thing, kicking goals. Look, I would have given him higher than a 7 if he wasn't missing all those set shots so close in front of goal. Seems to prefer it on the boundary a bit more so than he does there, but yeah, I think he just needs to tidy that up and he can get a higher result from me. Mason Redman, survey ranking at 6.72. I've given him a 6.5, and the most selected response was a 7. 37.1% of you have given him that score. Now, a tough one. I think he's defended really well this season, and he's playing a little bit different of a role now that Nick Martin's in defence. He's not quite the run and gun carry player. We haven't seen him blasting the ball from 50 quite as often as we did last season. How many goals has he kicked? Let's have a look. Has he kicked a goal or two? Surely he has. I'm just having a look now. Just the one goal. So, yeah, just the one goal from him, which does, I guess, weigh into a bit of a role change from him. Has had some pretty big jobs. I mean, he played on Sam Darcy. We played against the Bulldogs and did pretty well there as an undersized defender. But just, I guess, hasn't been the game breaker that I'm sort of used to seeing with Mason as well. Also missed a little bit of footy. So that's why I gave him the 6.5. Some of you thought he was worthy of 7, at least the 37%. And yeah, we've obviously got 6.72 being his average ranking there. Xavier Dersma, survey ranking 7.16. People are pretty happy with him. I've given him the 7, and most selected response was a 7 with 40% of you all. Look, I'm repeating myself time and time again, but he's by far and our best winger of at least the players who are playing in that position. And yeah, it was just such a shame that he got injured when he did, because I really thought he was playing some really, really good footy for us. His defensive work is incredible, just up and back all day long. We're starting to be a little bit more offensive and kicked a few pretty valuable goals there. I know there was one set shot. I can't remember who it was against. It was definitely at Marvel, and he kicked it like 50 metres out. And I was like, oh my God, I did not realise he could do that. So, yeah, here's hoping that we keep him fit and on the park for the back end of the season. Because, yeah, I've really, really rated the work that Mr. Dersma has done. I've got Xavier Dersma twice here. Let's skip through that. And Jake Kelly, my man, Jake Kelly. Well. Let's have a look at old Mr. Kelly here. Survey ranking 5.58. My ranking, I've given him a 5. And most selected response was a 6. Now. It's a hard one, because when he's played in his natural position, he's done some pretty good stuff. When he's been played out of position, he's been awful. So is that him to blame, or is it the coaches to blame? Now, I've given him the 5 because a 5 is a pass, and I think he gets a pass, but I just don't see why we persist with him high up the ground. Just play him in the back line, let him do what he does best, lock away a good small forward. I'm not sure who it's going to be for West Coast on the weekend, whether it's, Liam Ryan or someone else. Just lock him down, keep him quiet. That's your job, Obviously, most of you think he's done a little bit better at giving him the 6, and the rankings come out at a 5.58. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I've just been a bit upset, particularly in recent weeks, with the way that he's been higher up the ground, and that's why I've given old Jakey Boy the 5. Benny McKay, Big Benny, survey ranking 8.06. I've given him an 8. Most likely response was in fact an 8. 43.8% of you agree. Look, quite a couple of weeks, but gee, our back line just looks so much more settled with him back there. Like, the difference between him and what BZT were able to output is just apples and oranges. We haven't had monster key forwards just absolutely destroy us. He's had his colours lowered at times. Ben King definitely got the better of him, and unfortunately, I think his brother Harry got the better of him at times as well. But we're just such a better looking side with him back there. He's taken some really good intercept marks. His kicking has been better than what I was expecting it to be. He's proved a really, really valuable acquisition. Like, I know he's on a massive wicket this year, but it'll taper off after that. And, I think he's going to be a real great long-term player for Essendon. McKay and Davey Jr, little ADJ, survey ranking 4.76. I've given him a 4.5, and the most selected response was a 5 with 24.6%. So he was another one who had a pretty spread amount of results there. Look, I've really liked some of the stuff he's done when he gets the ball. McKay and Davey Jr, he's very impactful when he's got it. The issue is he doesn't get enough of the footy. He definitely struggles with the high intensity contested nature of footy. He's a small guy. He's not someone who wants to be crashing packs, but he does look like someone at times who's a bit hesitant to take the contact. And look, probably just wants to protect his body, and I understand that, but sometimes you just got to put your head over it and find the ball. So, look, I've been happy when he gets it, but doesn't see enough of it for mine, which is why I give him a 4.5. A lot of you gave him a 5, but with only 24.6%, you can see why there's a fair bit of disagreement there. But we've obviously ended up with 4.76 as the result for young ADJ. Matt Guelfi, the Guelfster, survey ranking 7.15. People are pretty happy with the way he's been playing. I've given him a 7. And, of course, the most selected response is a 7. 42% of you giving him the 7 there. Look, when he's played really well. His defensive forward roles have been fantastic. He's obviously taken some pretty big scalps there, even in the preseason and then leading into the season. Sadly, missed that really big chunk of footy, but when he came back, he played really, really well. He took Lachie Whitfield, the absolute cleaners, kicking a few valuable goals and being an absolute match winner. The celebration with the fingernails was one of my favourite moments of the season. And, yeah, I'm absolutely wrapped with the footy that Matt Guelfi's been playing. And, he's proved me wrong. I didn't think he was going to be this kind of player. I really thought he might have drifted away from the AFL, but he's absolutely stuck to it. He's playing some ripping footy. And, here's to a great career for Matt Guelfi because he's earning it right now. Ricky Martin, survey ranking 8.12. So most of you think he's worth more than an 8. I've given him the 8. And the most selected response was also, in fact, an 8 with 39.4% of you. It's just a funny one because I've been very, let's keep him in the back line for a long time. But recent results, I'm really starting to be like, oh, maybe we play him further up the ground. Maybe that's where he's more impactful. Or is it better that he's flexible? Like, if he's starting in those positions, does that mean he cops more attention and he cops a tag, or he, teams equate for him there more? Whereas when he's, switching from the half back line, are they going to give him that much time? I don't know. But there's one thing, it's, those little short 15-meter kicks, when they happen inside forward 50, it often ends up with someone having a shot on goal versus when he does it in the back line, and it's just to help us get out of there. So it's an interesting one. We'll obviously watch this space on where he plays for the remainder of the season. But look, he's had a really, really good year following on from last year. Well deserving of an 8, and yeah, definitely one of Essendon's best players so far. And the last one, Jye Menzies, number 47. Survey ranking 5.29. I've given him a 5. Most selected was a 6, 29.9% of you. I'm trying to hold in a sneeze right now, so let's see how long I last. Now, a tough one where he's missed a fair bit of footy, but I think he's done some okay things. I probably had him at if I did this pre the Carlton game, I probably had him as a 4.5 or maybe even a 4, but showing that flexibility to play that role across half back and showing something different, what I'm not used to seeing from him, I'm like, okay, there's something there to build on from him. And I think that's why a lot of people have given him a 6. He's played some good footy there. Like a lot of our forwards, just needs to be kicking more goals, particularly those set shots. I think have just been letting him down. Like, 2 goals, 4 behinds. His goal accuracy is at 20%, which is just, I'm sorry, it's not good enough, for a guy who has spent a lot of time playing forward. You just got to take those opportunities. And there's been a few times in recent weeks where he's got that opportunity and he's just missed the shot on goal. If he's going to be a forward for us in the future, that's something he's going to have to clean up. But who knows? Maybe he's going to be a defender moving forward. So our top 3, Zachy Merrett, 9.73. No surprises there. Sammy Dunn, 9.23. What a year he's having. And then third place, Jye Caldwell, 8.43. So they're our top 3. They have played some very, very good footy, all 3 of them. And, absolutely wrapped with the work that they've done. Hard to complain with that. But thanks everyone for tuning in for a little mid-season report card. Not the usual show that we'd be doing, of course. Me and the lads having a chat and talking a bit of shit. But I thought this was just something nice to do over the little buy window, something to keep us ticking on. Something to create some discussion amongst you What did you think? Did you do the survey? Were you surprised with any results? Was there anything you really disagree with, or you absolutely do agree with? Let us know. Send us, drop us a comment on any of the social channels or here on YouTube. Whatever you want to do. But look, that's all from me. Nice to do this little video, something different for you all. Back to regular programming this week with the pod on Thursday. And then, of course, the Monday review show, which is we'll have hopefully a bit of a laugh and hopefully celebrate a nice win over the Eagles. So until then, up the Plains, go Bombers. Catch you later.